Good morning, or I guess unfortunately not a very good morning. If you're invested in Chinese stocks, they are down overnight in Hong Kong, minus 6% for the Hong Kong stock index. So if we look into some of these Chinese names like Baidu down 12%, Alibaba 12%, Meituan 12%, and so on. So lots of things to talk about Chinese stocks in general. What's the reason for it? What is the news out there? Also a little bit about, of course, NIO, but also Tesla. So let's dive into some of these names. Now, why is this big dip happening right now? Well, it might well be the straight reaction of the market and investors to the outcomes of the CPC Party Congress, where Xi Jinping got his third term. Actually, this is by itself not surprising. I think it's also not too surprising that new Xi allies have been chosen into the Standing Party Committee. So this the closest ring of people around Xi are mostly allies. And so markets are testing this new administration from the first day with this sell-off. You may well remember earlier this year when the market sold off, and then Liu He came out, as well as Li Keqiang later on, and kind of calmed down the markets a little bit. However, those two are now not on board anymore because they've retired. They reached the age, and that was expected that they are not longer part of this administration. Instead, it's this guy now, Li Qiang, who's been new and where people don't really know yet, what to expect from him in terms of policies for the economy. And there has been this very interesting article by the Wall Street Journal, and that one was actually well summed up here by Keith Jai on Twitter. So go and find this thread and read it. It's also on my personal timeline. And what is interesting here, and I've liked those two tweets, is that those people who actually dealt with this new guy, who's now number 2 after Xi Jinping and is an ally to Xi Jinping, quite frankly, but he's been leading in Shanghai and also the whole Yangtze Delta in Zhejiang, and that's the most wealthy region in entire China. And so this guy is having the experience of bringing in lots of foreign direct investment, as well as fostering the economy there with names such as Alibaba, Jack Ma, but also most famously he brought in Elon Musk and Tesla to Shanghai. So that's also quite interesting that this guy is actually rather well connected to business and has lots of experience of working together with business, and they have some very positive views on that actually. He was also part of establishing the Shanghai Stock Exchange type of Nasdaq technology board, which is called a star market in China. So this also inclines that he is kind of, forward-looking for technology and innovation, as well as stock trading there. So the takeaway from this story and this persona here for me is that despite all of the negativity around that there are no market-friendly people in this administration anymore, I think we should see what's actually happening after a few weeks and months that they are in place, and whether or not they may actually continue with the opening up policies, and also if Li Qiang actually continues to be business friendly, how he has been doing in Shanghai and so on. Of course, he was also part of those people introducing the lockdowns in Shanghai, but this also escalated due to him being lightheartedly in the beginning, and so the virus spread, and then they had no other choice to do this lockdown. And actually, coming into the Congress, many people speculated this exactly why he wouldn't be chosen, because actually he didn't do the lockdown properly and was a failure back then. But now he's number 2. So once again, all of those articles out there with the speculation are not always on point and rightly pointing out what are exactly the things going to happen in China. But clearly it seems to be a political shock. We also had the images of Hu Jintao and possibly a purge by Xi, demonstrating his power by sending out Hu Jintao, the former state leader there before Xi Jinping took over. However, if you look here, for example, senior analyst Larry Ong is basically analyzing this and saying Xi has no incentive in hurting his and the party's image at this crucial time, basically saying that it's very unlikely that there has been a purge and power grab by Xi in this very public manner. And we've seen pictures before that unfortunately it seems like Hu Jintao is not in a very good healthy situation anymore. He's been escorted in as well as escorted out. And so there might be rather some health underlying issues that are not transparently communicated to the outside, which is normal for some of Chinese leaders. But again, the bottom line is there's not a lot of trust in this new Chinese administration as of now. Maybe the market is waiting for a reaction by China's side. But we have to see, like, how is this new administration going to unfold in the future. And I already pointed out over the weekend that actually I'm seeing some very interesting signs here for Elon Musk and his connections to the new administration. First of all, Jinping, who's been the former ambassador of China to the United States. You can see him here sitting in a car with Elon Musk. So they had a personal meeting testing full self-driving beta in the US, and he's now in the Central Committee. So that's really high up the ranks. He might actually be in the foreign policy department later on, and so shaping foreign policy, particularly with the US. I think we see quite a few signs there of people in this new administration that are targeted more towards the US, maybe making this a very important connection given all of the political issues currently between China and the US. And so that could also be leading to some maybe de-escalation in the future, hopefully. And so this connection of Elon Musk with Jinping as well as with Li Jiang, I think that's really powerful and should bode well for Tesla, which today announced that they are going to discount their prices in China, something that I've speculated here on the channel a couple of weeks ago, that I think that's the necessary step to do for Tesla, and I think it will be a trend going forward. I think that's just a natural positioning for Tesla in China, given all of the competitors around, and well, possibly this will be spun again into some negativity in terms of demand issues and stuff, but I just personally think, Tesla, with their targets of selling millions of cars and also really needs to expand into a wider target segment, and they can do so because they have all of those efficiency gains. Notably now also, after the lockdowns, Shanghai should be ramping up and increase efficiencies there. So they will forward this. They are now also getting the subsidies by the Chinese state because they are below the threshold. So yeah, short term, this might be some negativity around Tesla there, but I think it's the right step. Then we had even more important news today. Remember, when China did delay the Q3 GDP numbers, everyone is freaking out and saying like, well, possibly because those numbers are gonna be really bad, and so they don't want to publish them. Now, after the party congress is over, they announced them, and they're actually a beat. So that's actually a positive 3.9% year-over-year growth, more than the analysts estimated. But keep in mind, this only brings China's GDP growth to 3% year-over-year, while going into the year before the lockdowns and everything, they were actually looking at 5.5%. So still, Chinese economy is not doing well. And if you look a little bit deeper into this GDP report, there are some weaknesses. For example, housing prices are still falling a little bit, as well as maybe retail sales. So the consumer isn't as strong in here. So retail sales grew 2.5% in September from a year ago, slowing from August and missing 3.3% of an expectation there. So this may also cater not so well for some of these Chinese names. So you see lots of news coming out today, very ambivalent, definitely I think on the political side rather with a shock, I would say, maybe in general a test to how this administration will react to such markets fluctuations and volatility there. But in general, looking a little bit deeper into beyond the media headlines, I would say there are interesting developments in terms of the personas on this new Chinese administration there, as well as the price decreases of Tesla there, which I do not think they indicate a demand issue for Tesla nor for the entire automotive industry. It's actually was in the GDP report one of the stronger numbers is automotive actually. And then again, all of this controversy about how Hu Jintao was escorted out and stuff like that. So of course there's lots of uncertainty around this. Lots of people find China uninvestable or too risky. However, in the long term, I think that's the picture here. We'll have to see where this is all going, if this is really as bad as the media is writing. So based around all of this uncertainty there, it seems that's why the market today is reacting, maybe overreacting to such news like it is. We'll see going forward if there will be signals by China tomorrow or going into this week or not. Unfortunately, this just came at a time where the markets were kind of regaining some traction there. But of course, now this weakens also the Chinese yuan against the US dollar. US dollar strength is always not so good for the entire market as well. So expect lots of uncertainty and headlines that are not looking very positive there. But that's usual in such a time, unfortunately. So that's my opinion for now. As always, this is not financial advice and just my personal opinion. I hope it feeds you well to do some due diligence on your own terms and then decide for yourself, do you use this dip in order to get more exposure, or do you think things are heating up too much there with all of those political issues and stuff? Thank you guys for watching and see you in the next one.